I want to start this off by saying I've had this idea for this video for about 9 months. I actually planned for this to be the next video after my Ghostwire video, but ended up pushing it back. I had a unique idea I wanted to do for this game, since this game does a good job at tackling the theme I wanted to talk about, but during that time I wasn't in the right headspace I needed to be in to genuinely hit the theme I wanted and to actually be able to believe what I was saying. I also talked about how before I had a few old ideas I would be revisiting. The last one being the hop and run. Well, this is the second idea. If you're not sure what Chicory is, it's a game with heavy themes of self-expression and creativity, to the point it's impossible to play this without your playthrough being unique in some way from someone else's. It's truly the every game is personalized meme that was happening a while back, but now it's real. If you've never played Chicory's A Colorful Tale, then I would advise to play it first before watching this video, as I will be going over the whole story and spoiling a lot of what this game has to offer. If you're okay with still watching, then by all means, I hope you enjoy it, but you have been warned. My goal for the video is to deep dive into the idea of creativity and the good and bad sides of it. Chicory, I feel, hits both sides of creativity, and I want to go into those ideas and give my take on them. With that being said too, this is going to be a two-parter because this is going to be already a long video, and the first part's going to be covering the whole game of Chicory, while the second part will be covering the dark side and the good side of creativity. So with that being said, I guess it's time to dive into the video titled as Chicory and the Dark Side of Creativity. Chicory starts off by asking you a simple question. What is your favorite food? I picked pizza, not realizing this was the canon name for our protagonist, and it threw me off when I checked the wiki and saw the name, and I thought it was doing one of those weird, like, where it checks your computer files or whatever, and then it will change the wiki to the name of whatever you put, but that's not the case. We get a rundown about a magic paintbrush that's used to paint the world we live in and give it color. The paintbrush has been passed down to a new wielder since the beginning, letting each person leave their own mark on the world. We're then shown the wielder who owns the brush now and how amazing she is, and she gives so much life and color to the world. This is also being narrated by Pizza, so this is a really good way to see Pizza's thought process and ideas of what she really feels about Chicory and how much she looks up to her. And just to find out, Pizza actually works for Chicory by being her janitor, and it's a duty to keep the tower clean for Chicory. But while we're doing our task, we hear a strange noise that startles us. Pizza tries to ignore it and continues her duties just to hear the sound again, and without warning, everything goes black to then reveal all the color has vanished. Thinking we must have cleaned too hard, we go to Chicory to tell her about what happened, and that's when we see the brush is just lying outside of Chicory's room. We try to get Chicory's attention, but the door is locked. Pizza decides to then take the brush and use it for just a bit, giving us the powers that Chicory has, allowing us to paint, which this is the game's main mechanic. I, being a grown, mature adult, did the first thing anyone with a magic brush would do. We leave the tower, and this is when the game finally starts. Here we are at Luncheon, which is where Pizza lives, and to start us off, I want to say how much painting in this game is therapeutic, and the game does a nice job at letting the player slowly get used to the brush. The townspeople here are helpful by letting the player learn the controls and giving you tasks that will inform you of what the brush can do, like erasing and switching colors. The music that plays here and even throughout the game is amazing. It's made by Lena Raine, who also made music for Celeste. I won't talk much about the music since I'm not the biggest music theory guy. I just kind of say if I like or dislike it, but I at least wanted to credit her, and if I do find anything interesting on the music, I'll talk more about it. We go around town and people think that Chicory gave you the brush, and you will even be asked to help with designing things like a shirt or help paint their houses again. You can even paint yourself if you want. I can't tell you how long I just played around painting the areas for fun instead of advancing the story. It's just so satisfying to see the town go from black and white to then shine with colors that you placed, giving a real sense of impact knowing that you yourself did that, and it's a proud feeling to have, especially since you're not really forced to ever do this stuff, you just do it because you want to do it. Pizza also has a house, but it's quite empty. You do later on get stuff that you can use to decorate your house, but I didn't mess with it too much. If anything, this reminded me of the Kirby's Epic Yarn apartment situation where you get one at the beginning of the game. This idea is neat to build Kirby or Pizza House, but at the end of the day, it's not something I really mess with too much. We wander around and end up finding Blackberry, who asks us if Chicory gave us the brush, which we lied, but for a good cause. She asks us to follow her since she has something to show us, so we do and make our way to the next area. This is Supper Woods, and I really like the mechanic of using these mushrooms and coloring them so they can act like spring platforms. When they're uncolored, they are small and you can walk right through them. You can change your momentum when you jump on these, so you're not just stuck going one way. Most of the puzzles here consist of what needs to be colored and what doesn't, so you can get across. In my opinion, Chicory has a good amount of well-made puzzles, and they all for the most part require some thinking, but not enough to leave your head scratching for days. So don't expect anything like the water temple, which thank fucking God. Since we're in the first area that isn't a starting town, I should cover what collectibles you can find throughout the world, and that being 3 different types. First being these gift boxes that carry cosmetic items like hats or clothes. Any game with cosmetic items instantly is my favorite on the list. There's even these giant gift boxes, and these will hold different brush types, which you unlock throughout the game to add texture or depth to your colored world. The second collectibles are the Lost Kids. They're cats, but they call them kids. These are found randomly in the world, and you can tell when they're nearby because they will meow and knock any color off of whatever they're hiding under. You collect them for the orphanage and get furniture and other decorative items for the world and your house. Finally is the litter that's scattered everywhere, and personally I have a hard time seeing these. I really have to pay attention to make sure it's something I can even pick up. I just feel they blend too much with the surroundings and make me feel it's just like a decorative part of the landscape and not actual trash on the ground. So I ended up missing these for quite a while in the first part of the game. It reminded me when Link's Awakening did kind of the same thing where I had trouble with figuring out what was part of the scenery and what wasn't with this mushroom. See, to me, this looks like an item that's just part of the world and not something I can pick up. So I was actually stuck here for an hour trying to figure out what to do. And then I learned you could just pick it up. So I'm pretty sure this is a me thing even in Chicory and not Chicory or even Link's Awakening's fault. I take full accountability. The first area is the right amount of difficulty and does a good job at showing the player the importance of coloring objects and erasing to see what some objects will do. If you do feel like it's too hard, well, I know some people will be against it, but I actually love this being in the game. Pizza can call home and talk to their mom and dad. The mom will give you an idea of what you should do without being overbearing. But if you decide to say yes to talking to the dad, he will just tell you exactly what needs to be done or where to go. I ended up using this more often because it was cute to see the interactions with Pizza's parents and how excited Pizza's dad was to help me. It's also optional, so not like you're forced to use it. I'm just glad it was done in a way that wasn't immersion breaking, since when I was younger, I remember even calling my dad or asking my mom for help in the games I would play. I will say there is one time where the dad just straight up tells you to look online for the solution, and that was immersion breaking, but I also found it kind of funny. Well, back to the main quest. We travel deeper into the woods to find these scary looking trees, and the more we continue into the forest, dark mist fills the sides of the screens as if warning us. We find a giant tree and head inside to see an underground cave. With nowhere else to go and no way to light the cave, we just journey through it. We continue to go deeper into the cave, seeing more deformed trees, and we finally run into Blackberry, who is waiting for us down here. Blackberry shows us the area is full of dark mist while telling us since we were picked by Chicory, we have to face it. She even asks where Chicory is and how we really need her here and why the colors faded just to be pulled into the darkness. With no other option, we make our way into the darkness. Nothingness is all that is here, until a giant purple eye opens up, revealing our first boss fight. The thing stares at us, and with the only option we have, we start to paint. When Pizza paints over the eye, the being starts to get hurt. It soon closes its eye to then reveal 5 smaller eyes. The boss fight has now started. This boss is quite interesting and feels like something out of a bullet hell. Having to paint the smaller eyes to close them so they won't shoot lasers at you while dodging the bigger eyes' attacks. The music that accompanies this fight is hectic and nice, giving that mysterious but intimidating feel. We attack it enough times to finally see it be taken down. We wake up in Blackberry's house as she explains what we just faced. It's called corruption, and it's spreading. Without our help, Blackberry would have been a goner. Blackberry begins to talk about Chicory and how this is her issue and not mine, and by sending me, she's running from her problems and being a coward. Pizza, not liking this, defends Chicory's action, but tells Blackberry how it wasn't Chicory's choice to give the brush to them, and whatever is happening, Chicory is strong and has the willpower to handle anything that comes her way. Blackberry scolds us, telling Pizza how dangerous it was to take the brush, and how we all could have been screwed, and worse, Pizza could have died. She tells us to take the brush back to Chicory at once, and that she won't have any more of Pizza's games. We pick the brush up and unlock the power to paint inside of dark places, and now our paint can glow. Good thing for us, it will work wonders in the next area, Yum Cave. We have to go through Yum Cave to get back to Luncheon, and thanks to the brush, we can now see in the dark. The caves really end up being some of my favorite areas, even if the puzzles usually are just light up the crystals and whatnot. We make it through and end up back at the tower to talk with Chicory, and this is when we see her not in the best state of mind. We try to give her the brush back just for her to let us keep it, so Pizza decides if this is what Chicory wants, then they will be the best apprentice they can be. We try to paint in her room to make it lively just for this to happen. We find out Chicory is depressed and just wants to be left alone, so with nothing else left to do, we leave. Once outside, we run into this mouse who's looking for the wielder, and he tells us how these creepy trees are growing and making a mess of the wielder temple. We inform him this is nothing we can't handle and make our way to the Nibble Tunnel to make it over to Potluck. The unique puzzle for this cave, of course, is the crystals being able to light the mushrooms, but we also now have to face bugs that actively eat your pain away, causing the cave to go dark. This, in my opinion, is one of the weaker parts of the game for puzzles. It just kinda gets old, and if you just keep spamming the colors, the bugs aren't much of a roadblock anymore. We end up running into Turnip, who's lost, and we have to make a path outside of the cave for him. This part is a little finicky for what counts as the path that Turnip can use, because he wants to avoid the bugs in the caves since he hates them. It can be pretty precise in some areas, making it tedious, but the game teaches you about the size changing for the brushes, since if you use the bigger size, the bugs will always be hit by it. Once the path is made and we make it to the exit, we never really have to deal with Turnip again. We finally arrive at Potluck, and this area is where Pizza's parents live, and it's finally nice to play a game where I can actually meet the parents of the protagonist instead of just hearing that they have parents.
Sora, dinner's ready. Come on down. Sora?
Pizza's dad runs a holy shop, and you can get the chance to even decorate the donut on the sign. Your dad, after painting the holy shop, gives you a camera map to help see where you've been and take pictures to remember things for later, which is a feature they use so well in this. We even meet Turnip's family here, who tells us how he's always getting lost, but it's nice to reunite him back with his family. One of my favorite places here is the art school, and I love it because this place has a purpose, since doing classes here help you learn new brush techniques. You also get to meet Pizza's sister for the first time and one of her friends, and I really love the sister's relationship with Pizza. It's wholesome, and Clementine never comes off as bratty or too cool for Pizza. And turns out, Clementine is actually the younger sister, and you learn this from dialogue that you can easily miss. You get invited to join, and I really love these classes, so I'll cover them here. Each class will either make you draw something on your own or copy a picture and make it your own version. Even cooler is the paintings will be shown off throughout the world, giving your artwork a real feeling of importance. One of my favorite moments was drawing with my fiance, and we had to draw what fear is, and I drew this, and it pissed someone off so bad in the class that they just left. I can't say that I blame them. The brush styles aren't really required, they just help with making things look nice. The only one I feel matters is the fill bucket, since in later areas it's just much faster to use it over hand painting. After we visit our family and get told how amazing our holy design is, it's time to figure out what the problem is and fix it. We learn lots of the paths outside of the town are blocked by rocks that we seem to not be able to break just yet. We explore around till we find a way with no rocks blocking our path, and then we find this weird stone with circles all over it. Turns out it's the entrance to the Wielder Temple, but with no idea how to get in, it seems like we just have to go somewhere else for now. We decide to look for a wielder who isn't Blackberry or Chicory that probably would know the code to get in, so we set out to find him. Appy Foothills is the next area, and I love the puzzle mechanic here. We have these flowers that shoot out once painted, leaving a trail of paint in their paths. The trick for these though is to stand on them and have them launch you. I myself took way longer than needed to figure this out at first. There's some interesting puzzles here, like combining the plants with the mushrooms to make a connected platform. We also have the paint bombs, which are used to blow up rocks. I will say I like these, but they are annoying to push around since they can get pushed into corners and get stuck, or you can end up walking past it trying to push it. They get a lot worse in later areas because of how weird they are to use, but I'll go into more detail once we get there. We finally reach the end of the area and below the two rocks that are blocking the towns from connecting, letting people cross from one town to another. We arrive to a Levon's, and the only thing of interest here is that one of the past wielders is here, so we go talk to Cardamom, and he helps us with the code we need for the gate by letting us take a picture of it with our camera phone. Which again, I like this feature being able to take pictures and use them for later. It's really something I wish Wind Waker had. He also informs us about something that lurks down in the temple, and it's probably ancient evil, but Pizza lets him know they won't let anyone down, and with that, we get the puzzle and off we go to the Wielder Temple. We check the picture we took to unlock it by painting certain dots on the wall to make it passable to then hear a phone booth begin to ring. We go and answer it, and it's none other than Chicory, who's been watching us with her telescope. Chicory tells us that she's sorry for how she's acted before, and the depression wasn't helping. Pizza asks Chicory if she would like the brush back, but she tells us she's done with the brush and Pizza can keep it. Pizza lets Chicory know that she's their favorite wielder, but if she wants him to be the wielder, Pizza just wants to make sure Chicory's making the right choice. Chicory reassures us that we're perfect for the role, and our spark will motivate us far, and as long as we believe we can do it, then we can be just as good, if not better than her. Chicory then asks if it's okay if we help since the situation at hand isn't something she can handle alone. We say thanks and thank her for the opportunity. With our new task at hand, we arrive at another door just like the one at the entrance, and I love the puzzles here. At first, you're probably tempted to check the picture from before just to realize that solution won't work, leaving the only option to look around and examine your environment. If you're skilled at noticing things, you probably already noticed how in front of the door are rocks and flowers matching the same pattern that's on the block. If you see the flowers stick out and the rocks are flat, giving the player the idea to maybe match the placements of the flowers to what circles should be colored, and I will say when I finally figured this out, I was amazed. This is the gimmick for the area, and the camera will be your best friend here. Many puzzles require you to go parts of the temple and remember the placements of objects to unlock parts of the door, making the player have to notice patterns and placements while being more aware than ever. There's even hidden text that can only be seen once the floor is colored, giving clues to the puzzle solutions, and also someone's been vandalizing the temple by putting butts. The temple even has some lore of the brush and how it came to be, and I love when a game can show and not really force it down your throat about lore in the past history. My favorite puzzle in the temple is when you come to a room with two blocks, and every time you open the door with the puzzles, one of the blocks will be removed while the other will still be there, requiring you to figure out what puzzles are right for the moment at hand. It feels so rewarding when you're keeping track of what blocks fade from which puzzle codes you're using. The last puzzle uses the same concept but makes it where you have more than two doors to deal with, and again, I love how this game helps lead you into an idea and then gives you a more challenging version of it to conquer. The last puzzle door requires you to get 3 different codes to open the main door. This puzzle really had me stuck for a little bit since you only ever find one code for the door, and it's an arrow. The dungeon gives you clues on what to do since the floors will have arrows on them. Turns out you're supposed to flip the arrow to open those paths, and the arrows show you what path you're opening. The bomb plant also is used here, and I love how the game will give you obvious bombable walls, but some will have no indication they can be bombed till you go inside the wall and see other entrances to pass that seem to not have a way through. It's a subtle way to give the player the hint about some bombable walls not being obvious, and I really like it. Once you go into the different rooms and learn the codes, you're finally able to open the door and move forward. We're led to stairs that go deeper into the temple, and it's quite dark down here. With their paintbrush being able to light the way, it's just a matter of coloring everything around us. We arrive at the next giant dark tree. Whatever is causing the corruption to appear here, it's in that tree. We go into the tree to be faced with a giant eye again. We paint it to then see behind us another eye forms. Now it's 2 of them, and they start to merge into a giant scary rabbit face. I'm going to be honest, when I saw this, it was quite creepy. You take him out by painting the eyes like the other bosses, and I will be honest, he's not the hardest boss, but he is the creepiest boss of them all. We finally paint his eyes enough to take him down, and the screen then goes white. Pizza wakes up, and the only thing left to do is go find and talk to Chicory about what's going on. We also unlock the ability to swim through paint like Splatoon, and this is the power that benefits the most from the fill bucket brush. We head out of the temple and arrive back at Potluck. All I did at that point was paint some areas and then make my way to Chicory's place. We meet up with Chicory and she's trying to paint, but she tells us she really needs new ideas for her paintings, and that's when Pizza asks if she could paint us and use the brush again. Chicory decides why not, and we hand the brush to her, and a touching scene plays of Pizza and Chicory talking. Pizza tells Chicory how they really wish they were like them. Pizza talks about how she cares too much about what others think to the point that they have a hard time making decisions for themselves. Pizza just feels boring, to the point when Pizza was given the brush, they felt important, as if they're finally a real person for the first time. Pizza really wants to be worthy of the brush, just like Chicory. This scene really is nice since it hits home with how much Pizza really looks up to Chicory, and how being the wielder just like her is the only thing they've ever wanted. Even if Chicory feels Pizza shouldn't look up to her, it's still a very cute scene. Chicory finally finishes the drawing and informs us we can't see it, not until we draw her back. So the drawing commences, and after all my hard work, this is what I have to show for it. I really think for using a control stick, this turned out pretty good. We give our painting to Chicory, and boy oh boy is mine not even close. I love that the game still rewards you for trying, and again, you can only get better if you try. After the exchange, we start to notice more of those dark trees are growing here, as if they're spreading worse than before. Gulp Swamp is the next area on the list, so let's make our way over there. We arrive at Gulp Swamp to see Blackberry, and she tells us she doesn't approve of Chicory's actions or the fact I have the brush, but it's no longer her choice on what happens to the brush. She lets us know she's here investigating, as the corruption has spread a lot here, and she really feels Chicory has failed everyone by allowing it to get so bad. Since all of this happened when Chicory had the brush, instead of dealing with it, she shoved the brush to someone else to deal with the issues at hand. Pizza, not wanting to hear such slander about her friend, asks if Blackberry ever had to deal with issues like this, her response being yes, but not to this extreme. Meaning Blackberry is being quite unfair to Chicory, but sadly Blackberry doesn't see it that way. Blackberry tells us how her talent is unmatched, so it's obvious she can use the brush to its fullest potential, and Blackberry trusts she can do that, but she just expected more and feels disappointed with how everything turned out. She then asks us, what do we think of Chicory, in which Pizza boldly explains how Blackberry is wrong about Chicory, and how she's just having a hard time but shouldn't be seen as a bad person because of this, and with Pizza there to help, we can accomplish anything. Blackberry ends the conversation off by telling us she's glad then Chicory has us and to be careful. Well, I think now it's time to talk about Gulp Swamp, and boy do I think this area is fun and quite beautiful. The gimmick here are these vines you can paint to then go through them to reach other parts of the lands. Nothing really all that new, but fun regardless. I like how later in the area you have to watch which vines take you where so you can stay on the right path. I really never care for swamp areas besides Southern Swamp and Majora's Mask, but Chicory really taught me how to enjoy them again. What's nice is how it combines the plants from before with the vines, making you hop from one island to another. It's weird how during my playthrough I didn't realize how much Chicory reuses puzzles from before while managing to give it a new spin, but I think that just shows how well it does it to the point I never feel tired of them. After making it through the maze of vines, we find the next corruption tree and it leads into another caved area. I've stated this before, but I love just how the colors glow in these areas. It's such an aesthetic and I love it, man. If I ever make an aesthetic part 2, this game's going in that video for sure. The cave area just has a lot more bombable rock sections and tight paths you can only swim through with the paint. We do end up running into another door with circles on it, but with us having big brain syndrome, it's an easy time figuring this out. Is what I would say if this puzzle didn't take me 30 minutes, because I couldn't figure out that the vines were the ones you had to mark. Did I ever mention I've never beaten a 2D Zelda game yet? We go through the door to come to a random room and something is calling our name. Then everything fades to black, to see 2 giant eyes again. that form the rabbit's face to then form Chicory. Chicory begins to tell us how she made a mistake. We never deserved the brush. How can a joke like us ever be a wielder? And how the only reason why we ever were around was because we would clean for her. And if we hadn't been there, we would never have gotten the brush. The fact we could even consider ourselves an artist is pathetic. Chicory then tells us to shut up and that we're nothing, and proceeds to pull a weapon out telling us we're going to be erased once and for all. This fight is quite emotional as Pizza really sees Chicory as the hero, and this has now become a nightmare. As the other bosses, you beat her by painting her with the brush when she's opened. This fight feels so intense, and just how all the colors pop from the attacks, it's so appealing to the eyes. Almost makes you forget that Pizza's best friend is trying to murder us. With enough persistence, we take Chicory down to then see that Chicory we were fighting was a fake formed by the corruption. Not sure if this is a glitch, but when I quit back to the title, Pizza was just sitting in the menu with this face. I mean, Chicory did just try to murder us, so pretty genuine reaction. We wake up outside of the tree and see Blackberry as we tell her how we saw Chicory inside the tree. This makes Blackberry think that the darkness that's rising from below is connected to Chicory. Pizza asks if what they heard in there was real and if the Chicory they saw was really her. Blackberry just tells her to ask Chicory ourselves since Chicory is ignoring Blackberry now. We pick up the brush and now get the ability to jump. With wanting answers, we head off to talk to Chicory, and when we find her, we tell her what we saw and the things she said and how Blackberry thinks the corruption is connected to her. This causes Chicory to have corruption start to form around her, realizing that hiding it at this point is useless. Chicory's corruption starts to fill the room as she says how much of a horrible person she is and that the corruption isn't just connected to her, but actually from her. They're exposing all of the horrible thoughts and fears she has to everyone. Pizza can only keep asking if what she's seeing is real and how Chicory said Pizza is a joke and never deserved the brush. Pizza wants answers, but Chicory, in the state of mind that she's in, tells us she can't deal with this, exclaiming she doesn't even care who the wielder is and how it doesn't even matter. All she wants is to be left alone. Pizza screams back, feeling betrayed. We did this all for you, and we felt we were finally being friends, just for Chicory to throw us away and treat us like dirt. Pizza composes herself and lets out a faint, "I'm sorry." Chicory tells us to leave, and we're kicked out, left to reflect on what was said in the Tree of Corruption. As the reflecting happens, some bugs show up with a note telling us the bug of Feast wants our services, so we must hurry to the Grub Cavern. The note is signed by the Queen Bug, and as wielders, it's our duty, so we make our way to see what the bugs want. We travel through the cave and find dinners, and our sister is here. She asks us how our wielder stuff is going and if we want to get a bite to eat. We went to the pizza place here, and I can say, sadly, they did not have any anime in sight. But the cashier was a dog. Close enough. Clementine asks us how we're feeling, and we tell her about what Chicory said, and I really love how overprotective she is of Pizza, even asking if she should go beat up Chicory. I really love their sister dynamic, and it's one of the few times I've seen where it wasn't the stereotypical, "Oh, I'm an annoying bratty sister." I actually get really happy to spend time with Clementine to see their sister bonding. She lets us know not to worry and that we're the sweetest, coolest little wielder there's ever been, and tells us, "I love you, Pizza. Please protect these two at all cost." This next part, I think, is a lesson a lot of us can learn from. You see, this whole game, Pizza has been busy helping everyone else and putting all their time into other people's problems instead of taking the time to focus on themselves. Clementine tells Pizza sometimes it's okay to say no. It's okay to take a break from others and their issues and focus on yourself. At the end of the day, it's unhealthy to let everything else weigh on you and never make time for yourself. Because no matter what, there's only one you. So why not make the most of you? The guy running the pizza place even asked us both if we can make a new sign for him, and I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't work with what she put. I'm sure this was to test you on working with something already there, but I don't know what the fuck she drew. I explored dinners and I did some side quest stuff, and while exploring I found this place to get my transit pass. I was supposed to sign it and I sure did a good job at it. We do some more searching and finally find Grub Cavern, and this is supposed to be the way to the Queen Bug. I know I said this before, but I really love the caves. I just can't say it enough. Grub Deep is the dungeon here, and the gimmick here is having these bugs eat your pain away, but now they can be used as platforms. Not the most exciting gimmick, and sometimes they can get stuck or won't go the path you really need, but it can be unique. Having the bomb flowers here with these guys can be a bit much. While down here, we run into a bug that can speak English. He tells us he's the Queen's ambassador and to follow him so he can lead us to the Queen. We do more puzzles and finally make it down the path to feast. Then the ambassador talks with us how we're the first wielder to visit in decades, but he notices we're not all that excited. We tell him we're sad and have been thinking about a fight with our friend. Pizza also tells the bug how even they are having doubts about if they should be the wielder or not, because Chicory is an amazing artist, but I'm a nobody. The bug tells us that they understand how they feel because it's tough being the royal bug ambassador, and how they have to learn so much about non-bug culture and even speak the language we speak. They feel through all their life having these skills, it's just been for nothing, to the point it even makes them feel like an outcast since no one else is like him. I can relate heavily to this because when I was younger, I knew so many random bug and fish facts that many times when I would share it with others, I was chastised or told to go away, making me feel useless for knowing the knowledge I do, but having no point in knowing it. Now I have a pretty decent fish series going and people telling me how much they love the concept, and I can say just like the bug, something I always felt was so useless finally feels like it was worth the time and effort. We then learned something from the bug about us being the first non-bug he's ever even met. Pizza, being the sad sex, says how that must be disappointing, but the bug tells us that we're lovely and they feel we're doing a good job. At the end of the day, Pizza came when they needed them. And in my book, that's the only thing that should matter if Pizza is worthy or not. The bug finishes off by saying, because of us for once, they don't feel useless. And with that, we finally arrive and it's full of bugs that we can't understand, but I really love the bugs' designs and how abstract some feel. We explore till we find the entrance to the Queen's lair, and the ambassador lets us know not to worry about not being able to speak bug. He will help us translate by getting on her head. I can say it's been kind of suspicious how they've been trying to reassure me over and over about the Queen Bug. It makes me feel something is up. We walk through the entrance to see something big lurking in the shadows, and then out of nowhere, a creepy, gigantic bug rushes at us and says, "How dare you enter our chamber? Looking so darn cute." Such a whiplash, but hey man, I'd rather not be eaten, so I'll take that. The Queen tells us how these black roots have been forming and it's making living down here very cramped, and because the bugs and the wielders have a pact, we have to help them. The Bug Queen asks the ambassador to live on her head since we can't speak bug to help on our journey. Even gives us an offer to clean our ears. Since he did help us, it's only fair we get to take him to areas where his knowledge is useful. So we go down and find the tree that's here and we enter inside to see more eyes form. As before, we take them out the same way by painting over them. Just then, out of nowhere, the eyes form into a gigantic circle to then reveal Pizza. The other me tells me to just give up, and what am I even doing here? Pizza yells back saying how they're not scared of you. The other me responds, but I am you. I know everything about you. Look at you playing the wielder. You really think you should be the one holding that brush. Pizza says she doesn't think that she should, but she's doing everything in her power to make it work. Why else would Chicory trust me with it? The corruption mocks her. Even after everything Chicory said, Pizza still believes Chicory really trusts her. The corruption gets into Pizza's head, making her believe that Chicory hates her. This really just shows how much confidence, after everything and even many moments of Pizza proving herself, they still feel they're not worth anything. The corruption says to Pizza, "It's finally time we put an end to this. This fight is one of my favorites in the whole game. You and her are mirroring movements together, and you're desperately trying to dodge all the corruption's attacks while painting them. This fight at first was such a brain teaser, and I found myself getting disoriented trying to dodge while making sure my brush was on them at all times. I can say with some embarrassment, I died a lot in this fight. I ended up figuring out a strat that made this fight go from challenging to more in my favor at the very least. Instead of trying to focus my brush on them, why not try to focus my brush on myself? Our movements are mirrored, meaning at all times they will be where I am. This was a huge game changer. I went from struggling to dodge everything to being able to maneuver while keeping up the attack. I no longer felt defenseless. This strategy doesn't make the fight easy, because sometimes they will just stay in one spot while switching what color can hurt them, and others you can't even paint them and have to dodge attacks. This is such an amazing fight because not only are you fighting corruption, you're fighting Pizza's insecurities, Pizza's doubts and self-hatred towards who she is. Stands before you with your choice to fight and overcome it, or to lose and become what you think you are. We wake up outside the tree with the brush beside us. Grabbing it gives us the power to swim up certain walls. I love this power, but it really takes me a while to figure out what walls I could go up and couldn't. We go back to the bugs just for them to tell us nothing has improved, but thanks for your help anyways. We tell the queen how we took care of the issues, but the roots aren't gone, just to figure out none of the trees we went to ever really went away. They just have the entrances closed to them, which means there's a true source to the corruption, we just have to locate it. With no real clues to guide us, I guess it's time to search around and see where it could be. We head back to the wielder's tower because Chicory probably has answers. We tell her the black force is starting to grow everywhere and the corruption is taking the shape and appearance of them, but no response can be heard. Then, Pizza notices the door is unlocked. We decide to head inside just to be met with darkness. Even when we paint, nothing stays here. We continue forward to see if we can find Chicory just to see her room isn't how it used to be. As we keep heading deeper into the darkness, we find Chicory alone as we tell her we need to go. It's no longer safe here, just then for Chicory to yell, "I'm what's happening here. I told you, all of this came from me." Orange paint begins to form around her and spreads slowly everywhere as she continues talking, telling us how she's broken and a messed up person. There's no point in saving her, and the sooner we abandon her, the better we will be. Pizza tells her how none of that is true, and the last time she saw this darkness, why won't you listen to me? Hands begin to form around Chicory as if something is pulling her or keeping her in place. Chicory lets out, "It's all my fault, it's all my fault, it's all my fault." The hands form fast and grow in size. Pizza lets out a single word, "Chicory." This is the fight that made me realize how not okay Chicory really was. As the face forms into the silhouette of Chicory and a loud scream can be heard, Pizza has no other choice but to snap Chicory out of this. A battle between friends, a battle of judgment and self-hatred, a battle of panic and fear. Chicory shows back up again as Pizza begs her to understand the darkness isn't her at all. The darkness is just taking forms of others to manipulate them, and it has to be from something else. Chicory, blaming herself for everything, asks, why did this all happen when she added the brush? Why did the color vanish? You think you did that? Pizza lets out a soft reply back saying, well, no. Chicory interrupts her. Stop making excuses for me. My entire reign as a wielder was a mistake. The only good thing I ever did was pass it on to you. Please forget about me. The hands pull her back down, having her vanish into color. The emotions and blame Chicory feels is more than anyone should ever have to bear. Spending your whole life practicing and trying your best to be what you always wanted to be, just for everything to break right under you. The pressure of letting everyone down as the expectations were something you never would be able to reach. Chicory shoots out of the color again as Pizza asks if she really thinks she's a better wielder. Chicory responds, of course you are, but Pizza's confused since the part of Chicory at the swamp regretted ever giving her the brush. Chicory says back that I regret a lot of things, and that I'm sorry, I don't know why did I say something so stupid. Just another mistake. Nothing good comes from me. Why would you even want me around? Chicory is pulled back in as the boss's attacks become more erratic, as if doing whatever it can to make sure Pizza won't break Chicory out of this. Chicory pops out again and tells her to just leave and that they're way better off without them. All these problems came from her. Pizza screams back, not letting Chicory words settle. I don't care where they came from. I can't face it all alone anymore. I need your help. I won't abandon you, so stop asking me to. Please. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. Just breathe. Chicory starts to breathe as the hands fade back into the color under her, with it fading away and the screen goes white. We find both of them outside at the tower, with them both sitting down. Chicory asks if Pizza really did see themselves in the corruption. Pizza lets her know how she did, and it even spoke like it was them, and was able to say thoughts Pizza was having. They both realize the corruption has something coming from both of them, meaning it has to be from something they shared in common at one point. Chicory takes a second and then says, "The brush." When Chicory was wielding the brush, it felt as if it was connected to her. The more the bond grew with her, the more power she gained and abilities to shape the color of reality at a whim. She wonders if the brush made more things real than the power she acquired. Chicory then says, "Pizza, I'm so sorry for whatever you heard in the swamp. That's not who I want to be. When those corruptions talk to me, it's like all my self-doubts come to life, reminding me of every mistake I've made." Pizza interrupts and says, "Chicory, you're so much more than that. It hurts to hear you talk about yourself that way. I forgive you. I just wish I could help. Well, more than that. I want to be your friend." Chicory says back, "I thought by now you hated me." "I thought you hated me." Chicory stands at her feet, but she still has sorrow behind her posture. "I'm so sorry. I just dropped you into this giant mess. I need to be better. I'm going to try, but I need you to wield the brush." We go and grab the brush and pick it back up as the screen goes white and Chapter 6 commences. We had our bond increase and can now swim and paint on water. Chicory tells us the source of the corruption is at the top of the tower, and if you swim up there you can see for yourself, but do not rush, because Pizza's not even close to being ready to face it. With the help of Chicory though, that can change by making Pizza a proper wielder. Chicory says how it's her fault she's not properly certified as one. For Pizza to become a proper wielder, there's 5 wielder trials one must complete. One of them being the Wielder Temple, which we already did, meaning we only have 4 more left. And Chicory lets us know from now on, she's going to be our teacher. She says to us that she can't promise I'll be perfect, but I'm at least gonna try. Chicory then comments about how we look nervous, but Pizza reassures her that they're not nervous at all. But Chicory lets us know it's okay to be nervous because she was too. Pizza yells out, "I can do it. I want to be stronger. I want to learn how to be a real wielder and help everyone." "Okay, come find me at one of the trials. You can do it, Pizza." With that ending, it's finally time for us to set off and conquer the trials. Now that we're able to swim, I guess it's time to swim. We head out to the ocean to find the big drink, and Chicory is here on this random island. This is the first trial out of the 4 we have. The first theme of the trial is finding your path as a wielder or something like that. We have to find our way to the heart of the island to complete the trial. Chicory goes ahead and leaves to meet us at the end. The gimmick here for the trial are these platforms that can be raised by painting the circles on the ground. The trial really doesn't get that challenging. Occasionally you will have to paint walls behind the platforms to surf up them, or guide bombs to specific places. The only challenging puzzle was this one, where you have to memorize the locations of the platforms and head to the next room to paint which one needs to be up. The biggest issue here, if anything, was realizing again what walls I can climb up. I know this is a me issue entirely. Like, watching the footage now, it's pretty obvious, but I actually went and actually called mom and dad in game for help. I'm sorry I'm this bad. The rest of the dungeon was a cakewalk with no time. We made it to Chicory, and the next scene is so heartfelt. I love it. You can go to the lagoon, and Chicory will ask if you're wanting to float and relax. I'm not positive if this moment is required for progression or not, but if it's not, you're hurting your experience by not doing this. You go and start floating with Chicory while you two begin to have a talk. "How's it coming, Pizza? Think you found your path as a wielder?" Pizza replies back saying how she's still figuring that out, because before this, she was just Chicory's janitor, which is nothing special. When Pizza thinks about her path, it just feels like her being here was by pure accident. She then says, "I guess I'm just faking it and trying to make it become real." I feel lots of us have had this feeling before. Life moves so fast, and some people move faster than others, and I know that can be quite discouraging. I even felt this many times, feeling like I was wasting my time and never getting anywhere because other people seemed to have their shit together more than I did. Over time, I learned something. Life isn't a race. There's no certain age you have to have something by or be something by. We take our time with many things like art, time with friends and family, and during those moments we cherish them and slow ourselves down to enjoy what's happening around us. So then why, when it comes to our future and where we're at in life, we are in a rush? We don't ever take the time to relax and move at our own pace, pushing ourselves to reach these goals set by our environment as fast as possible, even if in some cases you were never ready for the moment to be achieved. Parents and society can push people to have kids as soon as possible or have a job that pays more even if we suffer emotionally from it. Which is why at the end of the day, you're the one steering the wheel. You choose how fast or how slow you get to what you're searching for. If the time isn't right, then don't force it to be right. I promise you, when you make it there, you make it there. And the victory from doing so will still be just as sweet. What was your path as a wielder? I wanted it my whole life, and at the trial, I felt completely ready. It meant everything to me. Maybe too much. Definitely too much. I could never live up to my own vision. Feeling ready is overrated, but, well, I wish I felt ready. My whole life I've never known where I'm going. You make it look so easy. You wanted to be a wielder and you were, but I never knew what I wanted to be. So how can I be anything? Chicory pauses for a moment and then replies back. It almost feels like you're mad at me for making you the wielder. I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at myself for not being the person I wish I was. They pause for a second again for Chicory to ask if Pizza likes being a janitor. Pizza responds back saying, I did like aspects of it. I liked that my tasks were clear. I liked that I could put my whole self into it, and I didn't have to worry about the outcome. You know when you're making progress and it makes the world better in the tiniest way, like finding lost kids or fixing old paintings? Chicory chimes in and asks why she sounds so sad talking about this. Because it feels like I'm admitting I'm not even a real artist. I just do things for other people. So, you like to do things for others? That's an amazing thing to know about yourself, Pizza. But that's not what I want to know. I want to want things for myself like you do. I'm embarrassed. Sometimes it feels like I'm a joke that's gone on too long. Like you'll just take the brush back and laugh. You really thought someone boring like you could be a wielder? I know that's not what you really think, but... well, that's basically what you said to me in the swamp, I guess. And I never got over it. I'm genuinely sorry, Pizza. I wish you'd never seen that. But there's nothing boring about you at all, Pizza. I wish I had the capacity you do to be there for other people. And if you ask me, that's a great way to be a wielder. It's not just about making art. You're creating a better world for everyone. Being able to listen, to do things for others, that doesn't come easy to me. It takes all my energy just to deal with myself. Don't. You shouldn't be like me. That's not what makes a real artist, and definitely not what makes a great wielder. As only the sounds of crickets can be heard till Pizza interrupts asking if Chicory really believes that, and Chicory continues on saying, I do. I understand you're feeling like you don't belong, but, well, I've screwed up a lot. I thought I didn't belong anymore either, but I'm still here. We just have to keep trying, right? That was something you showed me. It's what makes you better than me. Don't give up yet. Having Chicory tell us all this makes it hit harder when you learn that in her house, she put up the portrait you made for her. Pizza will even comment on it, saying she doesn't remember hanging it up. It really just shows how much Chicory is learning to trust Pizza and how her opinions from the swamp are non-existent at this point. Another pause in the conversation happens as Chicory chimes in again and says how she's going to get out now and to see me at the end. The screen fades to black as Pizza is now by themselves floating. Continuing on with the dungeon, a new gimmick is shown for the puzzles, and this time it's raising and lowering platforms to have these black lines connect from one hole to another. I can't say it looks way harder than it actually is. I really am a sucker for perspective puzzles since these can only be done thanks to the camera angle. My favorite use of these puzzles was in Mario 3D Land where you could use the 3D slider to see the platforms better. Again, this would look better if I could show you the 3D effect, but I can't, but just take my word for it, these were pretty cool. We do all of that and finally arrive at the top of the island where Chicory is waiting for us. Chicory tells us before we're done, we have one final challenge here. This is where every wielder paints their self-portrait and we will have to hang it in the tower, and here's our self-portrait. With that, we're on to the next trial. Chicory congrats us on beating the trial and that we now only have 3 left. She even tells us how confident she is to tackle the other 3 with us. Well, time to move on to the next trial. The next area we go to has constant rain, and it's pretty to see the rain mixed with the calming colors you have for the area. The name of the area is called Banquet Rainforest. I'm going to say this right now, I love this area and the feeling of bliss and solitude from the rain and the accompanied piano music. It even does a bunch of keys that sound like falling to have it accompany the rain. With that being said, this has to be my least favorite trial. We have to collect these brush flowers, and that isn't why this area is bad. They introduce these flowers as the gimmick here. You can only paint them twice before they will shoot back. The game doesn't really make it clear how they work, but the flowers will move the way you paint the big leaf. It took me way longer than needed to figure out this is how they work, so a lot of it was me sitting there spamming trying to get it to work. Once you get the gist of how they work, then it becomes interesting having to plan routes for the flowers to connect. They even have these clouds, and when you hop into them, they get eyes and rain out paint. It's cute and one of my favorite gimmicks in the whole part. Then the game decides to throw in the bombs with these flowers. This is fucking terrible. Luckily, there's only one room that does this, so you don't really have to deal with it too much. So you see the issue here though with these is the flower and the bombs require paint to activate. There's also times where you have to be on the flower to carry the bomb with you while having the bomb on the flower. This will either result in you painting the bomb and it blowing up, or you painting the flower and the bomb just gets dropped. This puzzle is just more mind-numbing than fun, and I dreaded this, and the game makes you do this multiple times to blow up rocks, and you're just doing the same thing since there's only one bomb and multiple rocks in this screen. Once you clear this room, you'll be able to plant the flowers you find, and this is such a touching moment, and Chicory even talks about how she remembers when she even planted hers. We also get some lore about the brush and how this random tree sprouted and the missing branch became the brush we use to this day. We even get some insight into how wars were started over the brush and people were dying. This is why the wielder trials exist and the rules they made to help stop the wars. I again appreciate how the game has been presenting the lore to us, leaving us with answers but still room for questions and theories. Pizza then asks Chicory, if it's so important to uphold the legacy of the wielders, are they really worthy to do so? Chicory then tells us she hates the whole legacy concept and expectations from having it. These ideas and concepts took a lot from her in the process, and to top it off, she felt it never mattered anyways, and that you really don't have to be anything. You can just be yourself and be great that way. And with that, the trial is complete. I can without a doubt say that this trial ends up being my favorite. I can't say there was any issues I had here with its gimmicks or puzzles, besides the bomb stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Chicory decides that she wants to celebrate, so we go eat at Pizza's dad's Holy Shop. And trust me, before you get mad, I know this video's long enough, but this part adds more to their character growth, so it's worth going over this, trust me. Pizza talks about how it's surreal to be hanging with Chicory and how badly she wanted it, and even Chicory agrees with a smile, saying how it's surreal to just be hanging out somewhere with anyone. She always spent her time doing whatever it took to become a wielder, but as soon as the goal was achieved, everything started to fall apart. She even realized that she never knew why she wanted to become a wielder, she just knew it was something she felt about herself. Pizza tells her that she always wanted to know her purpose, just never knew how to know what her purpose was, but being able to talk with her makes it feel more real. Since if she can figure out her purpose, then maybe Pizza can too. Chicory replies back saying that sometimes she really wishes she didn't know her so well, that maybe with other ideas and visions of other paths in life, things could have been different. But there never was a plan B. It ends on a happy note, with both of them saying that they're glad for their friendship. Well, back to our main quest, we have now arrived at the desert peak and our goal is to climb the mountain. The theme of this trial is rising to wielder status. The main gimmick here is the wind. It's a fun addition, and it finally makes the bombs have more than the typical thing we've been doing. I mean, it still does the same thing, but at least not the whole time. The wind mechanic here will have it switch directions it's blowing, allowing you to jump further or not as far, making you time your jumps to match the wind. The clouds also come back, and they're moving up and down now. There's also these geysers, which I forgot to mention before in one of the other dungeons, but you swim up them and even time your movements to make sure it will land on the platforms, since sometimes they will go over the platforms. The wind here will even push them back and forwards, so it's a unique idea. It's crazy how this area really adds so much more to the mechanics than previous areas. The bombs now will float from the wind, causing you to have to push them so they can float to where you need them to go. And I get it, it's not a drastic change, but any change for these bombs at this point is fine by me. We meet Chicory halfway now, who asks us if we're ready to finally become wielder. With Pizza not understanding though what a wielder is, she says no, and she doesn't understand how any wielder could be anything like them. A wielder is someone strong, cool, and confident. Chicory chimes in asking if Pizza really thought if she was a good wielder, with Pizza stating she was the best wielder to ever exist. Chicory then says, now that Pizza knows her, do they really fit the cool and confident role that Pizza imagines wielders to follow? Pizza makes it clear though that Chicory is strong, since through all of this she's still here helping them, and that's a sign of true strength. Chicory says back to Pizza, well, you're still here too. Chicory adds more about the strong wielder mindset and how she tried so hard to be perfect for everyone and live to the expectations and legacy of a wielder was supposed to have. It made her scared that if anyone ever saw the real her, the whole idea of her would be tarnished, which would cause no one to care about her anymore. She even thought that's how Pizza was going to act after seeing her in the corruption, alone and scared. She really believed Pizza would never come back. Pizza tells Chicory that you don't have to be perfect for people to care about you. She even says why she came back, and it's because Pizza believed they were friends, and that's what friends do. Even after everything and how terrible Chicory was to Pizza, Pizza never wanted to leave Chicory behind. Chicory says thank you to Pizza and how she really never deserved help the way Pizza has helped. Pizza then adds that at the end of the day, they're glad they got to see the real Chicory, and before they really knew nothing about Chicory. No matter how above Chicory was, Pizza knew at the end of the day, she was just a person like them, while being someone they can still admire and want to learn from. I'm sure a lot of us can relate, wanting to learn and be like our favorite YouTubers to the point we put them on a higher pedestal than us, especially on opinions and worldviews. Forgetting at the end of the day, even if some big YouTuber or streamer puts on a persona, they're still a person like you and I. The screen fades as Chicory tells us they're going to keep climbing up the mountain, leaving us no choice but to follow. We make it to the top and Chicory tells us we're going to sing a song together. Then the game becomes like Osu and having to paint in circles. I'm sure you could technically never paint and still pass, but I didn't try it. The song they sing is about the pressures of people learning that maybe they're not good enough. Maybe when the cracks start to show, they will be thrown away and forgotten, but with time and persistence, they realize they're better than how they feel, and maybe they can be a better them. Again, you never know till you try. The screen fades to white, commencing the next chapter in our story. We're finally on our last trial. It's quite emotional just how far we've gotten, from Pizza having no confidence to Pizza ready to take whatever is on the horizon. With our newfound courage, we finally make it all the way back to Brecci, and it's a peaceful beach town. Seeing the beach brought back memories of my time in Corpus, and getting to go to North Beach and seeing the giant ship that's by the shore. I now live way further away from the beach since I can't just easily go like I used to, so it makes me kinda sad. But the beach will have to wait, as we have a trial to do, and while exploring, we find this house that has... Dr. Cheese lives here, and he's actually able to make us our own color palette to use colors we normally couldn't use in new areas. It's a nice addition to have after being limited for colors for so long. We continue our search and finally come across Chicory after swimming up a river we found to Brunch Canyon. The colors here are dark and gloomy, and the fog is heavy. Doesn't seem like a welcoming place. Chicory does welcome us here at least and tells us how this is going to be a tough trial for them. This was the last trial they attempted on their quest. The theme here is master passing on to student, and the trial didn't go well for Chicory at all. This was the last time Chicory and Blackberry spoke to each other, but Chicory assures us we can face it together and to just follow the river to its source. Now, I want to say I don't like this trial at all. The fog actually became an issue for me to see the walls I could climb. I guess you can say that's the puzzle for the area is the fog, but I think it's more tedious than rewarding. I ended up just trying to keep moving till I found the right wall, but I think I would be more annoyed if the puzzles here were challenging with the fog. I do think narratively, the most gloomy area should be depressing to traverse and see. I just still again think the fog is a bit much here. One of the mechanics I did like was having to paint the black floors to go over them. The tension is lost when you realize if you swim in the paint, it will just make sure to leave a spot wherever you're at, and you can just repaint again and never be threatened by the corrupted floors. We find Chicory again for the second time, and she just tells us to go on ahead, but we ask her to just tell us what happened between you and Blackberry. Chicory hesitates at first, but decides if we really want to know, then she will tell us. She says, I looked up to Blackberry basically my whole life. Training with her was a dream come true. I say we even became friends. I was so desperate to please her, but that meant I had to be perfect. Any sign of weakness could have been the end of my dream to wield, so I hid myself from her. Always pretending to be fine, even with no one else to talk to. And I basically got away with it until this trial. My very last one. Blackberry knew something was up. She just pretended not to until she actually had to relinquish the brush. That's when everything came out. All her doubts about me. This was supposed to be a simple final step, but she was suddenly threatening to take the brush back. I felt so betrayed after everything, after coming so close. It got very heated. She tried to pull the brush out of my hands. I fought back, and then something grew here. It was the first time I'd seen these black trees. We haven't spoken since then. I ran away with the brush. I was sure I could keep it all under control. Sure it would never happen again. Guess we all know how that went. So that's how all of this started, and how this stuff all grew here. It's all my fault. But it's not just you, Chicory. Things have come for me too. It's the brush. Maybe the brush is what made it real, but I wish I'd been stronger. I let all this grow inside me, seeing how corrupted it is here. It's like I'm surrounded by my own mistakes. That's not being fair to yourself. Blackberry should have been there for you. Nobody can be perfect. That shouldn't have come between you and being the wielder. I think Blackberry knew this could happen. If someone unstable wielded the brush, it reaches into you and makes all this stuff real, good or bad. Maybe it wasn't fair to me, but, well, life wasn't fair to me. I can't function the way normal people do, and I just have to live with that. Probably shouldn't have been a wielder, ever. But you were a great wielder. Maybe if you've had more support, this wouldn't have come from the brush. But Blackberry made that impossible for you. I wish someone had been there for you, Chicory. I wish things had been different too. I wish I didn't need help. I wanted to do it all by myself, like Blackberry did, but I let everyone down. Sorry, I'm not in a good place here. I know you're trying to help, and you're probably right that it wasn't all just my fault, but I don't think I can do this right now. Just go on ahead. Okay. Sorry all this happened to you, Chicory. I hope facing this helps a little bit. We head on up the river as the giant tree awaits us. Once inside, fire can be seen, and the new gimmick here is burning the leaves with the fire by literally lighting our brush on fire. You have to make sure to avoid the water as well. It's a fun gimmick and I love it. After burning our way through, we find a set of stairs, and once we descend them, we see blackness. Not even our paint will stay here. We continue walking to see Blackberry and Chicory, and this is where we see what happened. After all this time, all that training, I'm just not good enough for you? Chicory, don't do this. I can't take this anymore. I hate you, Blackberry. I need you out of my life. I'll be a wielder, with or without your blessing. They fade into nothing, as the last thing we could see was Chicory raising a weapon at Blackberry. We go one room over, and can see now, Blackberry by herself. She's gone. I made a huge mistake. I should never have. How did I push her so far away? How could I let this happen? I'm a monster. The battle with Blackberry commences, and this is quite the battle. Seeing the normally calm and collected Blackberry let the corruption and hate feed into her, it's a scary sight indeed. Her attacks end up being erratic while being formulaic, having them follow patterns that are precise. Blackberry then stops attacking to talk again. No, she never understood what it really takes. Why, I have to be this way, it's not my fault, she's weak. Blackberry stomps the ground as the diamonds begin to form around her and fast. Things pick up speed as she seems to be trying everything to stop me, even having the whole screen filled with attacks. Blackberry begins to speak again. She should have listened to me. But then, why do I feel so guilty? Did I make her like this? Why couldn't I just fix this? She stomps again, as now the attacks are way faster and seems to lose their patterns. Now the attacks are breaking their collectiveness. The whole front Blackberry puts on is crumbling. Someone who's always perfect and strives to never fail has failed, and it's something she's scared to admit. Blackberry speaks again. I wanted to make her perfect. I wanted to be her friend, but she's gone, and I can't fix it. She's gone. The screen then fades to white, as our final chapter is here. Pizza is passed out by the beach, and we learn Chicory is screaming our name to wake us up. Apparently, Chicory found us floating down the river and brought us to shore. She's glad we're okay because she won't know what to do if we got hurt because of her. We reassure her we're fine, but it wasn't her in there as we thought it would be. It was instead Blackberry. We tell Chicory we think Blackberry feels terrible about what happened. Chicory chiming back, well, she has a real way of showing it, but I guess that means it really is from the brush, not just me, not just you either. If Blackberry's there too, it could mean every wielder through history is in there somewhere. Chicory, I think you should talk to Blackberry about what happened. If she has something to say to me, she can say it herself. Oh shoot, this is the trial I never really finished, so I nearly forgot about the ritual at the end. The theme of the trial is master passing on to student. You're supposed to earn the respect of your master, and I'm supposed to formally accept you. Maybe with like a handshake or something. Did I earn your respect? Chicory smiles and tells Pizza that you did way more than earn my respect. So much of this happened because I didn't have anyone to talk to or anywhere to turn, but you've been there for me. You've got strength that I kind of admire, and I happily accept you as my successor. With those words being said, they both shake hands, sealing the ritual. Then hug. This is it, Pizza. You've completed all the wielder trials. Pizza raises her brush into the air, and now our bond is at max with our brush. Chicory then says how we're finally strong enough to face the corruption, meaning the only place left to go is the wielder tower. Chicory says before we go that she's proud of us and all these corruptions should have been her issue to deal with, and facing them all made her want to give up. But you stood up to everything. I'm so glad you were here. I really don't deserve you. But that she will cheer for us when we're ready. Time to head to Luncheon. We're finally here, and this place is not looking good. Black trees cover the area to the brim. The place looks more like a forest of darkness than the city we called home. We see Blackberry here, so we go and talk to her, and she says to us, I know Chicory trained you all she could, so she's letting both of us have her full trust to annihilate the corruption. She then says how everyone is counting on us. Moving towards the tower really starts to show how big the roots have gotten, and the tree is destroying the tower walls and foundation. We talk to Chicory and tell us that the end is just up ahead. All those trials, all our preparation, it all comes down to this. So, you feel ready? So ready. Bring it on, giant scary corruption. Well, before you go, we gotta talk about what's going to happen after. I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I think we should destroy the brush. The brush connects with the worst parts of us and makes them real. It lets us make beautiful things, but it's also carrying the darkness of every past wielder. And at this point, it's a threat to everyone at Picnic. That thing is evil, and destroying it is the right thing to do. What do you think? We're able to ask questions and learn the repercussions of destroying the brush. The biggest issue from destroying the brush is the world will lose color over time and we would be stuck entirely in black and white. Chicory, however, won't budge on destroying the brush even if we think otherwise. Chicory tells us to make the world proud and off we go. We scale the tower to find the top is infested in dark roots, but the brush helps us clear the way, and with that, we step inside. It's empty and dark in here. Pizza even yells out to see if anyone is around, but nothing. It seems like we're walking forever as we proceed through with only trees lining our path. Pizza starts to feel nervous as she really is alone here, and gives herself a pep talk to remember it's okay to be nervous, but everyone is counting on you. We continue just to arrive deeper into the tree. Pizza starts to say why she's so nervous still talking to Chicory, and how she doesn't want to let her down, and even after everything, they still feel like the same person they were. That's when, out of nowhere, a voice is heard in the darkness. Maybe it's because you're not. You're not real. No, I'm not. But it's still true. I've been afraid to ask her, but I need to know, why did Chicory choose me to be the wielder? Did she really think at the time it was a good idea? You're asking her shadow? You already know the answer, don't you? She didn't. I know she really didn't. Everything happened by accident. I just got the brush because I happened to be there. Part of me still hoped that I really was special and I just hadn't figured it out yet. But Pizza, you are special. I know that's what she'd really say, but it feels just as real coming from you. Then, out of nowhere, the corrupted Chicory grabs Pizza and holds her as she screams out, "Why? I thought all I ever wanted was for her to believe in me. But even if she does, I still feel like a nobody." It's because there's nothing you can do or anyone can say to change what you really are. Eyes then form and we use the brush to paint them before they can blast Pizza with lasers till all of a sudden our brush gets grabbed. You don't deserve this brush. Never have, never will. Don't you think it's time you gave it back?